Hello, my fourth grade friends. This is Miss Mowers here. I am coming to you today with a review of equivalent fractions. When we talk about equivalent fractions, we are talking about fractions that are equal. In case you have forgotten, a fraction is a part of a whole. The top is the part and the bottom is the whole. We also call this part the numerator and the whole is our denominator. So you can see 3/4, 3 is the numerator, 4 is the denominator. We would have 3 parts out of 4 whole parts. So today we're going to be looking at fractions that have not the same amount of parts, but the same amount shaded. So for example, if I had a fraction that shows 1/2, and I'm trying to find something that is equal to 1/2, I know that I can take that 1/2 and break it up into more parts. If I broke it up into 4 parts, then to get the same amount that is shaded, now I would have 2 out of 4 parts. We know that these are equal. Now, we are not always going to have drawings to help us determine whether or not they are the same amount shaded. So we can rely on our math facts to help us. In some cases, you are going to get equivalent fraction or a fraction such as 4/5, and it will ask you to find a fraction that is equivalent with a denominator of 10. Well, first I have to ask myself if I can get 5 to 10. If I'm not sure about that, I can list my multiples of 5. 5, 10, 15, 20. I can get 5 to 10, and I do that by multiplying twice. So 5 times 2 gives me 10. If you look at my most important remembering up here in orange, whatever you do to the top, you must do to the bottom. So I multiplied the bottom by 2. That means I need to multiply the top by 2. If I do 4 times 2, I end up with 8/10. So that I know 4/5 is equal to 8/10. I have multiplied the top and the bottom, my numerator and denominator, by the same amount. So just to review, if you are given a fraction and you need to get it to an equivalent denominator, for example, if I gave you 5/6 and I want to find it equivalent to a fraction with a denominator of 18, I first need to ask myself, can I get 6 to 18? 6, 12, 18. I can. I multiply by 3. So if I multiply my bottom by 3, I must multiply my top by 3. 5 times 3 is 15, so I know that those are equivalent. You may not always have a problem that gives you a denominator. In some cases, you might be asked to tell whether or not they are equivalent or what we multiply by. So if I were to give you 4/10 and 3/5, and you have to determine are they equal, you have to decide what we multiply each by. So I'm going to take 5, 10, 15. I know I can get 5 to 10 if I multiply by 2. So that means on the top, I have to multiply by 2. 5 times 2 is 10. 3 times 2 is not 4. So we know that these are not equal. Okay? So these are not equal because what I do to the bottom, I cannot do to the top and get the same fraction. If I wanted to find what was equal to 3/5, I'd do the same strategy that we just practiced. 5 times 2 is 10. 3 times 2 is 6. So I know that 3/5 is equal to 6/10, not 4/10. And I do this by using my multiples. In some cases, you might be given a fraction. I will just stick with the same one. 5/10, and you will be told what we are multiplying by or what we are dividing by to come up with an equivalent fraction. So if I did this problem, 5 divided by 5 is 1, 10 divided by 5 is 2. So I know 5/10 is equal to 1/2. You might be given a fraction and be asked to multiply by a certain number. So 3 times 6 is 18. 4 times 6 is 24. So I know that these are equal. Okay. So just to kind of review what we've gone over so far. When we are talking about equivalent fractions, we are talking about fractions that cover the same amount of space. You might see a problem where you are asked to come up with the equivalent fraction because they give you a denominator. You can use your multiples to determine if you can make your denominators equivalent. 3 times 2 is 6, so that means 2 times 2 would give me my missing factor here. You might be given a problem where you are asked to multiply. 4/5, we'll multiply it by 2, and we know that that gives us 8/10. You might be given a problem where you are asked to divide. And when we divide, we know that 1/2 is equivalent to 5/10. You might be given a problem where you are to determine whether or not they are equivalent, and you can do that by checking your numerator and your denominator. 10 times 5 is 2, or 5 times 2 is 10. 3 times 2 is not 4. Okay, I hope this video is helpful. If you have any questions, please reach out to Miss Kent or Miss Mowers. Good luck.